JJ Redick, do you think they'll still do the pod?
That would be awesome.
That would be. You know what? You know what?
No, you can't.
Why not? You can still
What?
do the pod.
There is no way you can do that.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Why? It would be awesome.
Think about how many.
Why should you?
Brew?
The Kelsey brothers do a pod.
Yeah.
Draymond does a pod. It's new media.
This is your
It's new
head.
media.
Doug Gottlieb is going to do a radio show while coaching a
No
team.
way.
He can do a pod.
LeBron, my advice, don't do the pod, man.
Man, my advice, do the pod.
It'd be
Stephen A. is going to
exciting
get
for
a lot of
us.
angry texts from people. Oh, boy, if they do that pod. Brew, how should LeBron feel about this being his new head coach? JJ being his
I
new
think
head coach.
he should, just looking at the way he's handled things, I would be shocked if he's not fine with it. Like actually more than fine with it. I'm not saying he has something to do with the hire, but I can't believe he's displeased with this. He's LeBron James. And LeBron, I don't think cares what a lot of people think of him. All right, so I don't think he's just saying, oh, they're going to think I made the hire if I do. If he really thought there's no way we can put our team in the hands of a guy that has never coached, say something. Not publicly, but say something to Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss. Like, look,
Really, say something
JJ
to
is
Linda
a
Rambis if you want to get things moving in that organization.
whoever,
Yeah.
but make your voice known, and you've earned that. So I think LeBron stayed out of it. Maybe they were like, hey, you good with this? Or to Rich, is LeBron good with this? And I'm sure he has to be fine with it.
Go ahead.
I mean, it would go down as one of the most dysfunctional things I can remember in pro sports if they hired JJ Redick, LeBron's podcast co-host, and then LeBron was furious about it, opted out and left. How much egg on the face would there be for the Lakers? And I know they've been dysfunctional and have not handled these things great, but that's a level of dysfunction too far for me to believe. So I'm with you. I think LeBron is, at a minimum, fine with it and probably pretty excited about it.
He clearly respects JJ's basketball knowledge.
So, yeah, I guess, and again, I acknowledge that my opinion on this seems to be out of step with nearly everyone else. So sometimes that just, means I'm on the cutting edge. But sometimes it means I'm wrong. Right? No, sometimes it means I'm wrong. I think that LeBron can really enjoy talking basketball with him and respect his basketball knowledge, but also as one of the smartest players ever and a guy who has had kind of every different type of coach you can have. He's been in the league so long. He had a great coach in Spo. He had Ty Lue, who was an unknown and not unknown, but an unproven, who has now proven to be a great coach. A guy came over from Europe who it didn't work, and David Blatt, a retread, and Vogel had every type. I think he knows what makes and doesn't make a good head coach and someone who can get through to not only the best players, but the most out of the other players. I think that is asking a lot of JJ Redick. I think that it is, and if you're
just because he doesn't have any experience?
Yes, because.
So do you think LeBron's disappointed?
I think that LeBron James did not want to be in a position where I have to choose to either leave Los Angeles or put the last couple years of my career in the hands of the least experienced coach in NBA history. I do not believe when LeBron started, and I know that this is, again, out of step with what a lot of people think. And I don't know what you think on this one, Brew. I do not think when LeBron started this podcast with JJ Redick, he was like, this is the first domino to him being my head coach.
I agree with you.
So I don't think LeBron, when things were clearly going the wrong way with Darvin Ham, thought, whomever it is, my next head coach is going to be the least experienced head coach arguably ever and younger than me. I just don't think he thought that's where this the train was going to end, which is why I think he was excited about the idea that it could be Dan Hurley.
Then he should have said something. He talked to Hurley. And maybe he did, but he should have said something to the front office if he's that opposed to it. I don't think he's opposed to it. I do think that I don't see him leaving.
I don't either.
I see him leaving this, so I'm sure he's fine with it.
I don't see him leaving, but if he stays with the Lakers, it is because there are a lot of factors at play, and it's to me will signal, and this would have been no matter who they hired, that there wasn't a coach they were going to hire that he was going to leave.
That was who else out there? Who would he have preferred? Because it's not like a great list of.
Well,
you
mentioned Monty Williams, who's new. I think Sam Cassell at least makes more sense. Like there is more.
I think Mark Jackson made more sense. But again, if you want one of those guys, push for him.
I thought,
You're LeBron James.
So that's a fair criticism. Is that if it should have been, he should have been more vocal in the
coaching search. I also don't think
hasn't been.
Players care about experience as much as we do.
Yeah, we don't. Travis Kelce doesn't give a damn about your typos. And of course, can anyone stop the Chiefs? Of course, the answer to that is no. Also, is 2024 the year of Joe Burrow?
Oh.
One of our favorite writers who is kind enough to provide 100 hot takes during the deadest time of every sports year thinks it is. We will discuss. And of course, it is Thursday. The most motivational segment in all of sports. I am Nick Wright, doing my normal job and Kevin Wild's job because he couldn't be bothered to be here. Danny Parkins is here as well. Chris Broussard. Anyone on the Bubble Bud list?
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks for.
It was actually Joel Embiid.
Oh, there we go. Good answer. Joel Embiid almost on the Bubble Bud list. All right, let's get to it. We're going to start with Jalen Hurts. While Brew claims it's over, we won't actually know if the Eagles shook their supernatural funk for a few months, and Philly media is not going to let you forget it happened. The godfather of Philly radio, Howard Eskin, thinks Jalen Hurts needs to prove himself all over again, saying he needs to have a good year or they're going to Carson Wentz him. He's got to have a good year, and he can't make excuses. Just go out there and be the best player you can be. Chris Broussard, famously, you picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl. You picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. You were fly Eagles fly all year long. Your reaction.
I think I picked Baltimore to beat them, did I?
At this point, I have a hard time keeping all the wrong predictions correct. You definitely had them getting to the Super Bowl.
I had them going there.
Brew, your reaction to Howard Eskin saying that Jalen Hurts could get Carson Wentz?
He walked it back a little today. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
A little bit. He said, because in that quote it was like, it's a fact he will get Carson Wentz traded, released. They traded Wentz, but if he doesn't play well. Today it was more like, well, he could.
Okay.
He could. Really. So here's the thing, and this is why he walked it back. It doesn't make that much sense. Now, certainly Hurts has to have a great year. He's not Mahomes, and he hasn't played well enough where, you know what I mean? It's like he's absolutely like a top 5 quarterback in the league. But they had Jalen Hurts on the team when they traded Carson Wentz. Unless you think Pittsburgh was the problem and not Kenny Pickett, that player doesn't exist in Philadelphia. So that's one. Secondly, Nick, and I'm sure you looked this up, Hurts cap hit for this year is only $13.5 million. Mm-hmm. Next year is 21.8, so below 22. Then 31.2 in 26, and then 2027 it goes up to 42. But those aren't really bad.
No, they did a weird thing with his contract where there is a $97 million void year at the end, which is a problem for future Philadelphia. Right, that's the problem for future Philadelphia to deal with. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, he needs to play better. He took a step back last year. He surprised everybody, including me, in his year when they got to the Super Bowl. Not so much getting to the Super Bowl, but the way he threw the football, because that's been his issue. Sure. He threw it well that year. He's got the weapons. We know they added Saquon Barkley, which we'll talk about. The 2 receivers are splendid, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. And so, look, I expect a better year from him. He does have the intangibles I like, the leadership, the work ethic, the character. But I just don't think it makes sense. Unless he's just atrocious.
For him to be on the hot seat.
Yeah, because when you look at these cap hits, they're not bad at all.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. I'm with you. We're not that far removed from him having 3 rushing touchdowns, a passing touchdown, 300 passing yards in a Super Bowl. Right. We're less than 500 days removed from that. So talking about Carson Wentzing him like that's a verb, like he's going to get got or something, is crazy. But he has been downgraded. Like as a stock, as like a person to believe in, he's been downgraded. but not to the level of Carson Wentz. Like, I think it's worth remembering Carson Wentz missed significant time with injury in 3 of his 5 years in Philadelphia. Obviously missed their Super Bowl run and wasn't the guy Nick Foles was. But then that year where they did end up trading Carson Wentz for a 3 and a 2, and that 2 ended up becoming a 1 based on his playing time in the future, he was atrocious. And we've got the numbers here to show how bad Wentz was the year before he was traded. And then that's Jalen Hurts.